My meter was always higher than theirs. That was the first thing. Not the explosion, not the men in coats, not the trucks that came before dawn. The first thing was the little black needle in my hand, climbing higher than it should. We stood in the same corridor. We wore the same boots. We passed the same pipes. We breathed the same air. But when the shift ended and we checked our readings, mine was always wrong. A little higher on Monday, a little higher on Tuesday, higher again by the end of the week. One of the men laughed and said the meter liked me. Another said I kept it too close to my chest. The foreman took it from my hand, tapped the glass with one finger, and watched the needle tremble. Then it settled in the same place, higher than the others. "It is within tolerance," he said. At Plant Mayak, those words could close any door. Within tolerance, within procedure, within expected variation. A man could hear those words and return to work with fear still sitting inside his throat. So I returned to work. That was how danger entered our lives, not with sirens, with permission. We worked in a city that did not exist on ordinary maps. Fences marked the edges of our world. Checkpoints cut the road. Documents moved through offices in sealed folders. Men arrived, signed papers, and left without saying what they had seen. We were told the work mattered. We were told the country needed us. We were told silence was safety. After a while, silence becomes part of the job. You lower your voice before you know why. You stop asking where trucks go. You stop repeating names. You learn that a locked door can be more ordinary than an open one. I was not a scientist. I did not design tanks or write equations about what was stored inside them. I was a worker. I checked valves, logged readings, carried tools, opened doors when told, closed them when ordered. I understood gauges better than speeches. A machine can lie only when a man teaches it to. The meter was not lying. That was what I began to understand. On the third night, I borrowed another meter. I did not tell anyone. I took it from a shelf near the maintenance room and walked the same corridor again, past the pipe bridge, past the gray door, past the turn where the lights always flickered. The new meter rose too, not as much as mine, but enough. I stepped back. The needle fell. I stepped forward. It climbed. I did it 3 times. Forward, up, back, down, forward again, up again. After that, it was not a faulty meter anymore. It was a place. I wrote the numbers in my own notebook, not the official log, my own. A small notebook I kept in the back of a drawer under spare gloves and a rag. Men who work in secret places learn to keep 2 memories, the one the office can read and the one that might save them. The next morning, I checked the official logbook. The line from the storage corridor had been rewritten, not erased, rewritten. The handwriting changed halfway across the page. The first number was pressed hard into the paper. The second number was cleaner, lower, more acceptable. I ran my finger over the page. The old number had left a dent. Paper remembers pressure better than men do. I asked who corrected the line. No one answered. The clerk looked past me and closed the book. That was the second sign. The meter was the first. The logbook was the second. By then, I was listening to everything. The cooling line near the waste section clicked at odd intervals. Not steady, not broken, wrong. The wall near the lower corridor gave off warmth even after the shift ended. I never placed my palm flat against it. I only held my hand close. The heat was there, faint, patient, like something behind the concrete had developed a fever. I told myself there were pumps behind it, a stuck valve, a maintenance issue, something ordinary. A man survives fear by choosing ordinary explanations first. Then the mechanics came. They arrived before dawn, in a truck with its lights off until it passed the gate. 2 officers sat in front. 3 men in work clothes rode in the back. No one spoke to us. They unloaded tools and disappeared through the door near the storage section. For nearly an hour, the corridor filled with footsteps. Metal cases dragged across concrete. A wrench dropped. Someone cursed. Then the footsteps stopped. By midday, the door was locked again. A new sign was placed beside it. No explanation, just a warning without a reason. The foreman gathered us near the stairwell and told us to avoid that section unless assigned. He did not say contamination. He did not say failure. He did not say tank. He said avoid. That was enough. At lunch, one of the mechanics stood at the sink washing his hands. He washed them once, then again, then again. The water ran gray. I asked what happened. He looked at me through the mirror and kept rubbing between his fingers. "Do not stand near that door," he said. Then he turned off the water and walked out with his sleeves still wet. That was the third sign. A meter can be wrong. A logbook can be corrected. A wall can be warm for reasons a worker does not know. But a man who has just come from behind a locked door does not wash his hands 3 times because nothing happened. That night, I opened my notebook again. The numbers were not dramatic. They would not frighten a committee. But when I drew a line through them, the line moved in only one direction: up. The next morning, my meter climbed before I reached the corridor. I stopped so suddenly the man behind me bumped my shoulder. He cursed. Then he looked at my hand. The needle trembled, higher than before. I turned the meter sideways, tapped it, held it away from my body. It did not matter. The needle stayed high. The floor moved a few seconds later. Not violently, not enough to throw us down. A deep movement came through the soles of our boots, as if something very heavy had shifted behind the walls. The lights flickered once, then again. Then the sound came, low, contained, pressure pressing against concrete. Men stopped speaking. At the end of the corridor, a supervisor opened the restricted door and stepped out too quickly. His face was pale. His voice was not. "Back to your stations," he said. We went. Because fear had no official name yet. The explosion came less than an hour later. I remember the light first. The bulbs flashed white. Then the building struck itself from the inside. A crack, a blow, metal tearing, concrete answering. Dust fell from the ceiling in a single gray sheet. The floor lifted under my boots. Somewhere behind the storage section, something that had been buried was suddenly in the air. Then silence. 2 seconds maybe, long enough for every man nearby to understand that the plant had done something it was never supposed to do. Then the building woke up. Alarms, shouting, running boots, steam, a telephone ringing behind a closed office door. Someone yelled for water. Someone yelled to shut a line. Someone yelled that a vessel had failed. No one said waste tank. Not at first. Words were chosen carefully, even while dust filled the hall. A man came from the storage direction without his helmet. His face was coated gray. 2 workers grabbed him under the arms. He kept saying one word: the cover. Only that. The cover. The cover. At first, I thought he meant a hatch, a lid, something small. Then I saw daylight where there should have been roof and concrete. A gray column rose above the building. Not smoke exactly, not steam. Dust, vapor, something carrying what had been hidden below the ground. My meter climbed so fast I thought it had broken. The needle hit the top and stayed there. I tapped the glass. A stupid, childish action. A man tapping a meter while the air itself changes around him. Orders collided in the corridor. Move back. Stay there. Get masks. Find the missing men. Seal the doors. Do not spread rumors. Do not leave your post. The plant was speaking in all its voices at once, and none of them knew the truth. Outside, we gathered in the yard. No one knew where to stand. Near the fence felt wrong. Near the building felt worse. The wind moved across us without hurry. That was the part I hated most. No drama, no warning color, no wall of flame, just wind. The same wind that moved grass, the same wind that cooled sweat, now carrying something no one could see. A supervisor told us not to alarm the town. The word town meant children, kitchen windows, laundry, bread lines, women carrying buckets, old men sitting in afternoon light, people who would never be told what had passed over them unless someone with a stamp allowed the truth to exist. I looked toward the villages beyond the fences. The cloud was moving that way, not fast. Fast would have been easier to fear. This was slow, calm, almost ordinary. By late afternoon, more trucks arrived. Men in coats stepped out with better instruments than ours. They walked carefully, as if the ground had become thin ice. One of them moved toward the damaged area, watched his meter, and turned back before reaching the door. That frightened me more than if he had run. Running is human. turning back quietly is knowledge. We were told to wash. We were told to change clothes. We were told the situation was controlled. Controlled. Another word placed over something too large to name. At dinner, the room was almost normal. Men ate soup. Someone complained about the bread. Someone laughed too loudly. A spoon fell, and every head turned. Then every head turned back down. No one wanted to be the first to say that the accident had left the plant. That night, trucks went out toward the villages. No sirens, no loudspeakers, no public warning, just engines, headlights, orders moving through the dark. The next day, we heard that some people were being moved. Not everyone, not immediately. Selected settlements, selected roads, selected houses, selected words. The disaster was not allowed to be whole. It had to be cut into pieces small enough for officials to carry. A contaminated field, a closed road, a temporary relocation, a precaution. No one said the land itself had been marked. No one said milk, grain, roofs, wells, and dust could become records more honest than any report. 2 days later, a woman came to the gate. She was not supposed to be there. She carried a cloth bag and a folded paper. The guard told her to leave. She said her sister had been told to leave her home with only what she could carry. The guard repeated the order. She looked past him at the buildings, at the pipes, at us. I was close enough to hear her voice. "What did you do?" No one answered. I have heard that question every year since. What did you do? Some days I say we followed orders. Some days I say we were not told enough. Some days I say the plant was built from secrets, and secrets are poor shielding. But the truest answer is smaller and worse. We noticed. Not everything, not the whole chain of failure, not the chemistry inside the tank. Not the exact moment when cooling became absence, and absence became heat, and heat became pressure. But we noticed enough. The high readings, the rewritten log, the warm wall, the mechanics washing too long, the truck before dawn, the locked door, the word avoid. We noticed pieces, and because no one gave the pieces permission to become a truth, they stayed pieces until the sky opened. After the explosion, the plant changed. Not only the buildings, the men. The man who joked about my cursed meter stopped joking. Another who used to smoke near the loading yard began looking at the ground before putting his feet down. People washed more, spoke less, wrote less in official logs, and remembered more in private. Some workers were sent away. Some stayed. Some returned to rooms where every object looked familiar and none of them felt safe. A chair could be dusted, a floor could be washed, a glove could be thrown away, but suspicion stayed. It settled into corners no broom could reach. Weeks later, I passed the lower corridor again. Part of it was sealed. The lights had been replaced. Fresh paint covered one wall. It looked almost new. That was unbearable. Damage should look like itself. A scar should warn the hand before it touches. But secret places are repaired to look as though nothing happened. Fresh paint is sometimes another kind of lie. I stood there with no meter. They no longer let me carry one in that section. I placed my hand near the wall. Not on it. Near it. The concrete was cool. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt anger. The wall had gone silent after speaking too late. Years later, others would give the accident a name. Kyshtym, Mayak, a tank explosion, a radioactive trail across the land. They would draw maps of what the wind carried. They would speak of evacuation zones, secrecy, and delayed truth. They would measure what we could only feel as dread. They would say it was one of the worst nuclear accidents before the world learned the name Chernobyl. But I do not remember it as a name. I remember it as a meter that rose when others did not. A logbook line pressed too hard into paper. A wall that felt warm. A man washing his hands until the skin went pale. A woman at the gate asking what we had done. A column of dust climbing into a sky that had never signed a secrecy form. That is the thing about invisible danger. Men can hide reports. They can lock gates. They can remove villages from conversation. They can give a place a number instead of a name. But wind does not obey classification. Dust does not respect borders. Water does not forget. Years after, I would still check my hands after touching metal. I would still step back from closed doors that hummed. I would still feel, in the quiet before sleep, the weight of a small meter in my palm, the needle climbing, climbing, climbing. No siren has ever frightened me as much as that small black needle moving without sound. History remembers the explosion.
I remember the first number no one wanted to explain.